So, Josh, several years ago, I was in Cuba.
Okay.
And I think about the time, by the way, that this
That's cool.
this episode goes out, I will be in Cuba. So,
that's really cool.
I'm making plans to go there in a couple of weeks. But so I walk in this house.
Okay.
And
what year are we in right now?
It's probably 2007, 2008, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But I walk in this house, and of course, it's very poor. Most of the furnishings were from the 1960s, 50s, and 60s because they just don't have anything. They haven't since communism came. But I walk in, and I'm staying in a room that they rent out. It was before Airbnbs were there, but it was an Airbnb.
Yeah.
I can only stay where the communist government says I can stay when I'm there. I can't stay with my friends. It's not allowed. So I can stay in one of their hotels, which is like staying in a prison, or they approve certain people who monitor us while we're there that we can stay in one of the rooms. So anyway, they have this little room. But as I'm going to it, I walk in, and I saw something that I've only seen two other times in the world, and they had a shrine set up in their living room.
An actual shrine.
An actual shrine.
What did it look like?
It had like an altar. And on the altar, it had some candles that were lit. It had the Virgin Mary, interestingly.
Who was this a shrine to? Maybe I should open with that.
That's the deal.
Huh.
I mean, it was kind of like a buffet shrine.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So,
got it. Yeah.
So it had some bowls of rice and some shots of what appeared to be whiskey or something, but they're in shot glasses, some kind of alcoholic drink. And then there were some things that I recognize as being part of Santeria worship, which is a spirit worship that came from Africa that they practice in Cuba in particular. The slaves brought it, and often what they do is they bring the slaves over in boats, and they would stay in a city called Trinidad, and they would...
I've been to Trinidad.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Trinidad, Cuba?
Yeah.
Really?
No, I'm sorry. Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But in Cuba, they
meant there's a city in Cuba. Okay.
So, it's called Trinidad. But in Trinidad, Cuba, they would bring the slaves back to better health. After having traveled all the way across, they'd be sick, emaciated, underfed, diseased, and so forth. And so they'd let them stay there. Then they'd bring them on over to one of the islands, the Caribbean islands or the United States to work. And then sometimes, for whatever reason, they would escape or whatever. So that's why you have black Cubans all across the island. It's kind of an interesting thing. But Trinidad was it's kind of where the Santeria worship took hold, and it's still dominant there. We see it in Miami all the time when I lived down there.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so they have beautiful jewelry that they wear, and I was going to bring some. My friend of mine said, "Don't do that. It identifies you if you wear this wooden jewelry as being a practitioner of Santeria." Oh, interesting. But the thing that struck me when I walked in this house was the fact that there were multiple idols right out there in the open. I'm like, this is 2006, 7, 8, 9, whatever it was, and you just don't expect to walk into a home. I mean, I guess when you walk into a Chinese restaurant, you look for the little cat that's got the arm, or you see the little. We used to play, who could spot the little
Buddha
sacrifices.
Or
First.
Yeah.
But it just struck me. Yeah. At the same time, we Westerners get really pious about those kind of things. I've seen that in India and other places.
That's so weird. Those people in Cuba with those...
They're praying to dead people.
There's
incense, because they had incense too. They're all
crazy.
Yeah. But at the same time...
use that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And at the same time, in the United States, we have different idols. We're just more subtle about it.
Right. Way more subtle.
And technically speaking, an idol is anything we put that is more important to us than God.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we started with this series last episode. But I'm goring some sacred cows. I hope for Christians, but
goring like an ox gores.
Like you're poking. And the idea is that I think many Christian families are hindering the spiritual growth and discipleship of their children because of idols that we have erected in our homes, and they're not as or they're more sophisticated, perhaps. They're not as plainly in view as having a little shrine with a Virgin Mary and some incense and some whiskey and so forth out. But nonetheless, they are idols. So last time we looked at the idleness, or the idol of busyness, how we overschedule ourselves so that we basically push God completely out of the picture. And then we looked at the idol of our children's success, whether it is their grades or the awards they win on the athletic field. But we prioritize these human accomplishments that ought to be symbols. And I'm not saying grades are bad. I'm not saying getting a trophy is bad, please. Right. But what I'm saying is when those become such a strong objective that they crowd out other important things, including God, maybe we don't look at them. And then there's the idol of comfort. A lot of us, we want kids, but we don't bother with them. We want significance, but we don't. What we end up in the pursuit of that is basically a desire for comfort, for ease, for enough bedrooms so everybody can have one child. Just whatever the nicest SUV that we can possibly get, and we go into debt and we go into bondage so that we can have these idols. So we looked at busyness, success, and comfort. So today I'm going to begin with some more of them, and this one is big, and I got to tell you this. This is one that I've succumbed to in the past, and that is the idol of entertainment.
Yeah, me too.
Entertainment. Yeah,
I like entertainment.
Yeah, so entertainment is just this notion that we can escape from our reality for a little while.
I mean, is it a notion? I feel like I am kind of a little bit escaping for a little bit.
Yeah, perhaps it's beyond
maybe
notion.
Only for a 22-minute episode of Community. Before that 22 minutes.
Yeah. Well, my problem is a 22-minute, particularly now we got streaming, right?
Yeah.
So the 22 minutes becomes 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yes. Here's a pro tip. You have to get on like Netflix's website to do this. You can't even do this from the app, but turn off autoplay. Turn off autoplay on all the things.
I didn't even know that was a possibility.
You can. I don't know if you can do it on all the things, actually. I don't even know I don't know if I've done this as consistently as I should, but I've just noticed it is so nice to have the control of being able to, are we going to watch one more episode?
So do you do this? Because this is what I'll do, because it does scroll to the next one.
Yeah.
And I don't tend to watch the 22-minute the sitcoms. I tend to watch the hour-long series.
We like some of those too.
Yeah. But what I'll do is I'm not going to watch another one of these. And then it's 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it's like, then I'll say, I'm just going to watch the first few minutes of it to see what happens next.
For me, like sometimes
and then it's the next hour that
right. Like, I might sometimes we just where's the remote? You know what I mean? Like thing. It's just like, and then we don't find it fast enough, and then it sucks you in. Like sometimes it's as dumb as that.
Okay, just one more. That's my favorite. Just one more.
Right, just one more. Right. It's worth it. We don't need sleep.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I won't eat breakfast in the morning. That's I'll start making compromises.
Another, if you watch those shows that have a lot of cliffhangers at the end. Oh yeah. The trick. Watch till the middle of an episode.
Oh yeah, no, I can't.
We'll totally do this. We'll watch because we know we can't end at this cliffhanger. But we'll know, we can't do that. That's not even an option anymore. But it's also not an option, or it shouldn't be an option, to watch another hour-long episode. So let's watch 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Wait for the end of Act 1, a natural break. Yeah. And then let it go.
I've done that a few times. Usually it's because I'm so exhausted I've got to leave. I'm married to a sicko. I just want you to know that. She hasn't listened to this podcast, so I'm okay. You know what she will do?
What does she do?
She will fast forward to the end to see whether she wants to watch the...
No!
She does that when she reads books.
No!
She'll read the last chapter or two of the book and then decide whether she wants to read the whole book. And I'm like, you are psychopathic. There is something fundamentally wrong with your brain.
Disrespectful to the author.
It's disrespectful.
So
it's
as a lover of the show Lost, one of my all-time favorite shows of all time, I just finished finally watching it with my oldest two sons. So this is kind of fresh in my mind anyway. It's probably my 5th or 6th time watching it. But one of the cool things about Lost is that there are a lot of really cool, oh my goodness moments. I don't know exactly how to say it on a Christian podcast, but it's there's what just happened? What used to be back in your day, the water cooler moments at work, right?
Right.
People talk about those things. Lost has these so many wonderful, multiple, sometimes an episode. It's going to go to an ad, but it's going to be what is that kind of a thing? To miss that, to skip that, or the people who just went straight to the last episode to try to get a sense of what happened, you are missing so much.
Yeah, it's psychopathic. I will find out if there was such a thing as reincarnation. She was a mass murderer at some point in her history, because it's just not normal. But anyway, I love her in spite of it.
I mean, I have a little bit of that. Like I'm sometimes choosing not to read or watch things if I know like this is not the time.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mood for it. This is probably going to be too heavy. Sometimes we choose Community or Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office over some like heavy true crime documentary or whatever, action series. And there's reasons. There's reasons for that.
Well, I very rarely watch stuff intensely because I'm usually working and grading, and so it's background noise for me. But I like to just like follow on. But when my wife does the fast forwarding,
then if it's just background, what are you watching like on the background behind like while you're grading?
I like reality TV.
Okay.
I know it's really
works.
sick.
That works.
I like those ones where they drop people off in the wilderness and they don't pick them up for like 30 days
or something like that.
Well, I like Survivor too, but the one of them's called, I don't know what it's called. I was going to say
Amazing Race.
But no, they drop them off in Africa.
Naked and Afraid.
Not Africa, in Alaska. Naked but Afraid. No, I've not watched that one.
It's not Survivor. I don't know what all the shows are.
Yeah, and so those you don't have to be
they're having to survive. There's that one where they go alone. It's like Alone.
Alone. That's it.
Is
That's
that it? Yeah, Alone.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
And there's like 12 episodes
I
of
haven't
it.
seen all of them.
I won't pay to watch them, so I wait till they come out free eventually on Prime or something. But
that's a solid show.
But you see, so look at how animated we became on this.
Yes.
I mean, this way. What about this? Have you seen this?
I know.
That's part of my problem.
Yeah.
And that is, and it is very easy for it to become an idol. Somebody, I think it was Tozier that made a description, 60, 70 years ago about if Satan could find a way to distract us in our own homes by giving us something to focus on for hours at a time and he basically at the end described a TV. Mm-hmm. And particularly in the past, if you didn't watch it when it showed, then you didn't get to see it. There were, as you so eloquently put it while ago, back in your day.
Right, back in your day.
But so now we've got it on demand. But and we've discussed this in the past. But entertainment and amusement go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And the word amuse, the etymological history of that is which generally means not or no, and then muse. Thought basically amusement is without thinking or without
blew
thought.
My mind the first time you said on the podcast. I'd never heard that before.
So and today we don't fight the TV, we fight TikTok. We don't fight movies or whatever. Yeah, well that's true. But rather, it's the screen, it's the what they call doom scrolling and if you've ever done it, that's an accurate term. I mean, there have been times as you age, insomnia becomes a part of your life.
Talking about,
I've literally awakened at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just cannot go back to sleep, and I'm like, I need something to turn my brain off, and I'll hit an Instagram or Facebook social media site, and then I click on a reel. Next thing I know, I've been doing it for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and I'm like, how did that happen? Well. Yeah. It captures our attention. Gaming is another one. Mm-hmm. I've done marriage counseling for couples who were newlyweds. I mean, married less than a year, and the wife was frustrated because she couldn't get her husband to come to bed at night. And what does that say about us? But I mean,
I'm okay with adult men playing video games to some extent. I'm not sure you should never do it. Like I remember I saw Mark Driscoll one time was like, I think it's dumb for guys to play video games. I think for me, I've got this hunting simulator game. Some people literally use it as a hiking simulator, but it's sort of hard sniping. You can try to find animals or whatever. It's calming. I can put on a podcast. But if I did that for 3 or 4 hours a day, and I'm not coming to bed with my wife and hanging out with my kids,
and that's it. And I don't think the Lord gave us the ability to be entertained. Yeah. Telling stories was the way they often did it in days past. He doesn't expect us to work 120 hours a week or something ridiculous. Yeah. He does provide for us these, music is a form of entertainment. Yeah. And so I believe the Lord created within us, but as with all things, we have to be careful about what then gains control of us, control of our thinking, control of our priorities. And when entertainment, whether that is a hobby, or whether it is something that we visualize or listen to, all of those we have to be really careful. Psalm 101 says, "I will not set before my eyes any evil thing or anything that is worthless." And the truth is, what we binge can often shape who we become. And so anytime we do something to an excess, it has the ability to fundamentally change our priorities, our values, what we find to be important, where we spend our money, where we spend our time, those kind of resources.
I heard this quote recently. I'm going to get it wrong, but like I can't get it out of my head. Even though it's like something like you were the sum total of like your top 5 friends and like your 10 favorite movies or 10 favorite books. It's like, or like the most recent ones or something like that. It was like, this is so much of you. Like we should then take it a lot more seriously when we're making choices about what we
really
want.
should. And sometimes it's a substitute for better things.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with watching a TV show.
Yes.
But a better thing might be reading. It might be conversing. It might be playing table games with your kids, or it might be getting on the floor and helping them with their homework. So we have to, the scripture talks about bringing every thought into captivity, but beyond that, I think we ought to bring every thoughtless thing into captivity as well. Amusement fitting that definition, in that we need to be proactively considering, how am I spending my resources of time, talent, and treasure? Yeah. How am I spending those resources? And are any of them more, for instance, if somebody's gaming 4 hours a day but can't pray 4 minutes a day or read scripture 4 minutes a day, I'm saying, Houston, we have a problem. Right. If every week we find a way on Sundays to go to the beach or go to the lake or go to the biking or whatever it is, but we don't darken the church doors of a church and fellowship with the called out assembly on a regular basis, that may be a great warning sign to us that something has become an idol. Yeah. Anything we do that is more important than God becomes an idol, and we have to be aware of it.
So I know we're probably doing an entire episode on one, but here's the question I think everyone wants to ask is then, how do you balance it? Like, so like the version of this that some people would take without further thought would be to go too far the other direction and say, okay, if I need to take every thought into captivity, then I need to never watch any TV unless I know exactly what's going to happen. So like maybe like history documentaries or things like that. And I need to like it could be taken really far and really strange, and that's not you. So how do you, why can we watch TV ever?
Well, and that's why I think it's really important that we explore the nature of idolatry and the nature of control in our lives, because it's not the same for everybody. Some people have a tendency to, I have a family member who literally, if it has any kind of addictive attraction to it, they would have a hard time walking by it. That's part of their design, their DNA. Yeah. I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are things that are more attractive to me than they should be.
Sure.
And at some level, I have to treat it like I believe an alcoholic needs to treat alcohol. So when I'm talking to someone who's an alcoholic, I say, do not have any alcohol in your home, period. Yeah. Period. Yeah. Take every bit of alcohol, even the bottle that you have for emergency purposes, in case emergency, break glass, that one.
Right.
Yeah. And for pour it down your drain. Yeah, but it cost me $150. Pour it down your drain. Kill it. Mortify, therefore, your members or your flesh, King James says, but which is put to death anything that's a temptation to you to sin.
Yeah.
And so that's one extreme. So for some people, if they can't get control, it's people who can't control their spending. I say, I have to have a credit card in case, somebody dies and I got to buy a plane ticket, which says something about your budgeting. But if you have to have a credit card, then I tell them, then put it in a bowl, fill it halfway, or get a bowl, fill it halfway up with water, freeze it, put the credit card in, fill the rest of the way up, and then freeze the rest of it, so that it takes you 6 hours to thaw out your credit card. Now that sounds absurd and ridiculous, but there's an intention on that. If you can't control the impulse, make the impulse difficult.
Make it hard. Add some friction.
Yeah. So, and I've literally said to guys addicted on porn, you need to have that program that will shut your internet off at 10 o'clock and put a code on it, give your wife the code, and don't. And I tell people with teenage kids that all the time, because their kids are going to bed, and so they think, and they're not. They're under the covers with their phone. Yeah. So turn it off. Put the restrictions on it. So in some cases you have to treat it aggressively. In other places you just simply say, I'm going to live by schedule.
Yeah.
Because there are people who don't go to work on time or who stay up and can't get up out of bed in the morning because of something stupid like binging on video games or binging on TV or binging on scrolling. When it becomes an interference with what is really important, then you need to take action and you need to be a grown-up about it. Yeah. And I think that's some of us are, we're living in a state of perpetual boyhood or immaturity where we're afraid to discipline ourselves. Part of becoming an adult is you don't need mom and dad or the school teacher or whoever disciplining you and saying, now, time to go to bed, Johnny, time to get up and eat. Hopefully at some point you won't eat potato chips and Coca-Cola every meal. Now, when you're 14, that sounds cool. Mm-hmm. But when you're 44 and you've got, coronary heart disease, at some point you're going to have to take control of your diet and figure out this is better for me. So let me get one more, and then we'll go to the next episode. Is that? But it's the idol of financial security. Now I'm going to tell you this is one I struggle with. I'm not going to lie to you. I am a security nut. I really am. I hide money from myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I put it where I can't get to it. For years would have an internet bank account, so there was no place I could go withdraw it. To withdraw it during those times, you would have to actually apply for it for 3 days before you could get to it.
That's smart.
Yeah, it wasn't smart. It was just perhaps indicative of some other thing. But I'd squirrel money away, and then I would live like I was poor all the time because I was so afraid that I wouldn't have enough to meet my obligations, and I didn't want to be that person who was panicked. Yeah. So financial security, and to be honest with you, it's why I've always had 2 jobs. Yeah. Always have had. I've not, even today, I could live on one job. I just don't want to live the way I would have to live if I only had one job. Yeah. And the other thing is I don't like being in ministry, people to question everything. And so that my other job allows me to do things that I would enjoy doing, and they can't say, well, we must be overpaying you because you're, you drive a 10-year-old car. But when we trust money, when we trust our savings, when we trust, when we sell out for the boss, the company store, so to speak, and sacrifice our family or our walk with God in order to have security of finance, and when we're willing to compromise our values because the boss told us to, those kind of things, we have to be pretty careful. Matthew 6:24 says you can't serve God, and the King James says mammon, but it just really means money. You can't serve 2 masters. 1 Timothy, Paul was warning the young preacher, his little protege there, those who desire to be rich are going to fall into temptation, is what he told him. And the pursuit of enough money often becomes the altar on which faithfulness will be sacrificed. So we have to just kind of be careful about what we allow our hearts to desire more than we allow our hearts to desire God. Yeah. I
just watched this really cool CGI video. There's this YouTube channel called Corridor Crew, and they made this video recently showing, using computer animation, how much money billionaires have. What does it look like? What does $1 billion look like, or $1 million look like in cash, basically? And then how much, when you start talking about the uber wealthy, the Elon Musk and those types of people, even back through history, it's a tower of cash that would go literally above a skyscraper. And it's at what point do we say you're good? Elon Musk could do whatever he wants for the rest of his life.
He could not spend all of his
maybe
money.
Not a Tesla or whatever, but he could do whatever. He could go on some island and just do whatever he wants for whatever. Many times over. It's like at some point, why aren't we giving that money away?
And I think that's a legitimate question. Maybe a good podcast in the future, because the school of thought that's very dominant right now is tax the rich, which is somewhat of a libertarian I have a problem with, simply because it's not the government's money, it's my money. However, I would say at the same side, because I'm a Christian, I would say is there needs to be a limit to how much wealth we accrue for several reasons. Number one, wealth comes with the responsibility. Where much is given, much is required. That's a scriptural principle. And when we when we keep more than we need, we may be guilty of greed, is a little cliche I've used for years. But how much does any one person truly need? And I've said this, if I were a man of significant means, I would hope somebody would love me enough to make me go to a third world country with them on a mission trip. Because, I went to Cuba one time and stayed in this horrific village that was just poverty was incredible.
Yeah.
And I had just bought a house that was about twice as big as I needed and twice as much as I could afford.
Yeah.
I ended up, by the way, losing that house. I didn't go into foreclosure, but I had to short sell it because the market crashed.
Yeah.
And I look back on that time as the Lord teaching me a really important lesson. Even though I could justify it, like it was a good investment and so forth, what it would have done is made me less dependent upon God during this period of my life I'm in right now. And at some level, I think God was protecting me from buying into this hyper security that I wanted. I wanted to be able to retire if I wanted to at 50 or 55. And now I'm in the situation because of all that I'll always work at least one job. And I'm grateful for that because I don't think retirement's a biblical concept.
One more story on this because it's so apropos. A long time ago, I met this guy in Fresno. He was like one of these his full-time job is meeting with very, very wealthy people to try to get them to donate to nonprofits.
Right.
So he's a development guy. And he hangs around with people that are a lot wealthier than I know, right? But he is a lot bolder than I am. And I'll never forget him telling me this story about how he had just he was just hanging out with this rich guy, and he's raising money for a really, really great cause. Like, I loved the cause he was doing and stuff. And he said, he basically, I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but he looked at this guy and just basically said, so, have you bought enough boats yet? Like, enough yachts yet? Are you ready to, make a difference with your money, or do you need one more boat? Something like that. And I remember oh my goodness, I can't imagine.
I love people with that kind of courage.
Can't imagine saying this, but there are people probably at the church that could hear a message like that.
I lived in Palm Beach, Florida for years. I had a friend who was the president of a yacht company there. And there were two guys that were friends, competitor friends, but and very, very wealthy. And every year they would order a new yacht that was exactly 1 foot longer than their friend's yacht.
No.
And then the next year, 1 foot, so they could have the bragging right. That was a little game they played. So they were basically trading off their yachts every 2 years.
They're not selling the old ones even?
Well, they probably sold the old ones. But
and not accumulating.
But it was just do you really need to trade off your yacht?
So dumb. That's
but
so
it was just,
terrible.
And that's the kind of mentality.
That's wrong.
It is wrong.
That's just wrong.
It was really wrong because at the same time, on the other side of the island, across the intercoastal, there are people that were living in poverty. And I'm not saying just go over there and hand them money, but I am saying provide them with jobs. I am saying give them a hand to help their way out, help them break addictions and cycles and generational sins and curses.
Make it more about just you.
Yeah, and to me that's a cool thing. So there's a guy in this church, and I love him. He's a very dear friend, very close friend. He inherited a bunch of money not long ago from his parents, passed away sadly. He lives very simply. He lives in a modular home. He could live.
Wow.
He could live in he was not in a home not nearly as nice as mine. He drives used vehicles. He doesn't take extravagant vacations. But every time I go on a mission trip, he'll come up to me and say, "I'm going to give you some money," and he usually gives me $500. So I took that $500 that he gave me this time, and I went to Africa, and I met a friend of mine. His name is Bembe, who had his arms cut off by Muslims when he was a teenager. So he has no arms. He's got little pinchers from the two bones that are in there. And instead of just becoming a beggar, which a lot of people would have done, he got married. He had 4 children biologically. He pastors 2 churches, and he started an orphanage for other kids who were in it because he was an orphan. I think he was an orphan, or he may have been rejected. But anyway, he has 40 kids that he takes care of. And you know what he did? And he started a school so the kids would have a place to go to school. All right. And this guy's about 45 years old. He's not that old. Yeah. And he sent me some pictures the other day. While I was there, I gave him the $500 from my friend. And I said, a friend gave me this, and I feel like the Lord had me give it to you. He went and he bought uniforms for the kids. And he sent me a picture. It's on my Facebook profile if you want to see it. Uniforms for the kids. And then he bought seed potatoes. And he pictures of him out there with all these orphan kids that he's raising, and he's teaching them how to farm. Those seed potatoes will grow up, and they'll feed those kids. And the extra ones they'll sell so they can buy meat. So you tell me the guy standing before God someday who had $500 but lives in a crummy home. Well, not crummy because it's a nice home, but lives in a certain
modular
mansion. Modular home, right? versus the guy who lives in a mansion in Palm Beach and has a yacht contest.
Yeah.
And who will die with billions and billions of dollars in the
literal
bank. And you tell me who's better prepared to meet their master?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not going to take it with them.
That one's clear.
Yeah, it's really, really clear. And some of the most generous people I know are people who have decided not to live above their means and have decided to take the extra to live simply but authentically. Yeah. And to be able to invest it in others. So I think we have to watch out for the idolatry. We want to teach our children to be generous, and we do that best by example. Well, folks, man, that time went by really, really quick.
That was good.
So,
that was a good one.
Well, we're going to continue looking at idols that are in our families, having a conversation about it. Hey, maybe you're in a car with your kids. Have a conversation about it with your kids and say, how can we be more generous as a family? And how can we find, identify, and destroy the idols that may keep us from doing what God would have us to do as a family? As always, we appreciate you listening to us at Life Talks. You can always send us an email if you want to at lifetalks@lifecharlotte.com. Until next time, thanks for joining us here at Life Talks.